we are still the national champions of college football.
Mhm.
And if you're not a Georgia fan, you are still not. That feels good to say.
It's a warm blanket.
We're gonna keep saying it over and over again. But there's news to discuss today, Clint. There's portal news, there's NFL draft news. Listen, when you're this good, you're gonna lose some people. That's just the facts of life.
Nature of the business.
We're gonna talk about who is on the way out, who might follow them on the way out, and what that all means for the University of Georgia today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. We got three things to talk about.
Okay.
Portal.
We're going to talk about that portal.
It's that portal. Secondly, draft, where we see them dogs going, who has declared, what we might be able to see. And then lastly, we might dip into, I don't know, a head coach of a loser program that had has been.
Used to be.
A retiree who
AARP member.
Who definitely made a tidal wave with his votes.
He holding on, Clint.
He
holding on tight.
I think stage 5 clinger is
holding
the term.
On tight.
But first, the portal news. Daniel,
Okay.
we got news this week as many players have looked at their future and seen the kind of situation that's out there at UGA, have decided to take their talents elsewhere. Got a couple of tight ends as well as a defensive back, a highly regarded defensive back, 5-star. Jaheim Singletary today announcing he is hitting the portal. So far, that's 3. And 4 if we're going who's that cat, that offensive lineman, was it? Shoot, now I forget. We got 3 that we know of.
I don't even know what we're talking about right now.
We got 3 that we know of.
Okay, sure.
Daniel.
I mean, we're recording on Thursday night. This is not going to come out till Friday morning. There'll probably be 4 more between now and then. Like, it's the portal, Clint. You don't know. You don't know what's happening. There will be more, and we might get into some speculation at the end of the segment, but let's just jump in. First of all, thanks if you're listening on audio, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, follow wherever you are, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Hit that thumbs up. Whatever you can do for the pod, we appreciate it. We'll be here all off season, by the way. We'll be talking basketball team. We'll be talking about recruiting news. We'll be talking about all this stuff with the Georgia football team. So, stick with us. Let's talk about this portal. The tight ends, first of all, Clint, Seether and Goad. First of all, good luck to them.
Good.
I love these guys.
Good luck.
These are great. These are great University of Georgia players. Never got their opportunity. They were never going to get their opportunity.
I'm sorry, you said tight end, Daniel.
It's a juggernaut of a room. There's never been a room like it in all of college football history, I don't believe.
No, never.
So you're never going to get an opportunity, and I want you to go play, and I want you to go cash in and have some success and get on the field. These guys helped us win championships. They were part of this team. They played an important role. But you look at not just Oscar Delp and Brock Bowers next year, but you look at the tight end recruiting coming in. 3 more guys projected in this next class, all of each one just better than the last. Clint, I don't know. It is an embarrassment of riches at that position, and so not a surprise at all that you're going to see those guys hit the portal. To be honest with you, I thought one of them was going to hit the portal last year after Oscar Delp got on campus or was recruited, and all of the projections about him, because we all sort of speculated. Well, none of these guys, Oscar Delp's going to come right in and pass all these guys on the depth chart, and sure enough, that is sort of what happened. Oscar Delp quickly became the 3rd-string tight end. And so you're happy for him. You're happy to see him go. Jaheim Singletary makes a bit of news because he's a former 5-star. Now, if I may here,
You may.
if you're trying to tweet and generate interest, then former 5-star is something you're going to lead with when talking about Jaheim Singletary. And obviously, Jaheim Singletary is very talented. And if you happen to be the program that gets him,
sure,
you are getting a former 5-star, a very talented player.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, Clint, he's not the only former 5-star recruit that's sitting there waiting in the wings. Number one, Kamari Lassiter, not a former 5-star recruit, has just established himself, as we said on yesterday's pod, as corner number 1 on this team.
Yep.
Dalen Everett, another former 5-star in Jaheim Singletary's class, clearly beat him out and has been next in the pecking order. And then you bring in guys like A.J. Harris in this last signing class, who has already signed. You bring in guys like Daniel Harris. Georgia is loaded with talent at corner.
You didn't even say Nyland.
And then you got Nyland Green, who's a veteran, who's been on campus probably the longest of all those guys. And so you've got so much talent at every age that you're going to lose. It's honestly the thing. If I go on just a tiny little soapbox, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts on these transfers. It's the thing that makes me most annoyed with recruiting gurus and insiders, because every single kid that signs at Georgia has an article written about them about how they're going to be a day one starter and how they have a chance to be one of the all-time greats to ever play for the University of Georgia. Well, that's fine if you're trying to get clicks and sell content, but that's just not the facts of life. And if you ever were to point that out for these kids when they sign, that hey, a lot of these kids are never going to see the field for the University of Georgia. We just recruited 4 defensive backs in the same class, 4 corners in the same class. Some of them going to transfer. Yeah, people don't love to hear that, but that's just the way that it is. Like, you lose these guys when you recruit the way that Kirby does. Kirby recruits because he knows he's going to lose these guys. And so there.
My problem with this entire thing is exactly what you said. And we don't know, and we're not playing sour grapes, because we've done this with 5-star kids that haven't worked out and did not show out on the field for Georgia and stuck it out. You can say coming out of high school, he was a 5-star. That's a true fact.
That's right.
But then when you get on college campus, something changes. Something is different. Maybe you couldn't get the weight up. Maybe you couldn't get the speed there, the twitch. So we're not.
Maybe there were just really, really good players in front of you. It's not a slight on the kid. The kid might go somewhere and have a great career.
Now, this is the one caveat I'm going to stipulate. We have a couple of exceptions to this, but the vast majority of the rule is this. And this is why I think development is Kirby's game and will always be Kirby's game. Of course, is getting lotto tickets. Remember, recruits and the stars are lotto tickets. The higher the star, the more likelihood, but not the guarantee. Kirby's going to develop, because think of all the thousands of transfer kids. Mm-hmm. Only a couple of them really, really make a meaningful impact.
That's right.
Yeah. And so we're excited about a couple of wide receivers we're getting coming in. You should be excited. They're talented.
Absolutely.
If you think they're going to make a cataclysmic shift at UGA, well, 1, it's hard when you're king 2 times in a row. But 2, development and culture is key. Kirby has a certain type of person. So yes, Georgia fan, wish every single one of these kids good luck. And if you don't, shut your mouth. Okay?
And take into account that there are 2 types of players that leave programs. There are starters who leave programs to go to other programs because that's where they want to be. And there are backups who leave programs to go to other programs because that's their only choice to play. Now, I'm not saying Georgia is immune from that second one. Obviously, Jermaine Burton was a starter, and he left the program because he didn't want to be in the program anymore. He wanted to leave the program. Kid that transferred down to Miami, defensive back, what was his name?
Oh, yes.
Golly,
By
I
the
already
way, the
forgot
name I was
kid's
thinking of earlier was Bill Norton, already in the transfer portal. Defensive
Oh
lineman,
yeah,
not
Bill
offensive
Norton, defensive lineman. That was a mid-season transfer portal, or I guess pre-Peach Bowl transfer portal. What the heck was that kid's name? Everyone in the comments is shouting it
They're
at me.
killing you right now.
Starts with an S. Anyway, it's not like Georgia's never had Stevenson. It's not like Georgia's never had players who were starters like real players leave their program. Georgia has that. Every program's going to have that from time to time. But this is not that case. No. So don't read former 5-star and think, oh no, Georgia is losing something. That former 5-star wants to play at Georgia. He wishes he were playing at Georgia. And again, I'm not trying to slight the kid. I'm just trying to tell you that the kid sees the handwriting on the wall. He sees that Nyland Green and Dalen Everett are ahead of him. He sees that A.J. Harris is coming. He sees that there is talent. He sees that Kamari Lassiter's not going anywhere.
We just had the 2 best defensive back classes in the world.
He sees that Javon Bullard is coming back. He sees that there's just not that many spots for him to play. He's an outside corner, and we played 2 of them. One of them's already filled, and I just named 2 guys that are ahead of him on the depth chart. So you're not. He wishes he was at Georgia. Those tight ends would love to be at Georgia.
Yes.
But that's just not the way it worked out for them. And so we wish these guys well. There will be other players in the transfer portal. There might be a starter in the transfer portal, Georgia fans. Sure. You gotta just prepare yourself. There will not be a person who transfers from the University of Georgia who breaks the program. I promise you.
Can't
promise you.
Happen.
That will not be the case. So
we're going to come back after this, talk about draft and guys who did make Georgia, and are going to get paid in doing so. But first, we'll tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your sportsbook experts. They are fantastic for everything that you need to do to bet on all these games coming up this weekend. Go ahead, like I said, and take the points and the Niners. Give those points straight over the Seahawks. Have fun. I don't want them.
Pete Carroll doesn't want anything to do with the 49ers. He literally came out in his press conference and said, we are screwed.
No, we don't know how to beat them.
We are screwed.
They're great. And if you go to BetOnline, you can get all the odds, the news, and the scores right there. The official sports book of Locked On Bulldogs and Locked On Podcasts everywhere. You can get parlays. You can go ahead, and if you don't realize that in a couple months we got this beautiful, beautiful event that is Americana history called the Masters, in which Daniel and I will be giving out our little futures on. Be looking for that. BetOnline is a place you can go put all your action, your hard-earned cash, and it's the only place that Daniel and I both trust to make our official sports book.
All right, Clint, let's talk about this draft. Let's see off the top of my head. We got Darnell, Big O in the draft.
He gone.
We got Keely Ringo in the draft. He gone. Broderick Jones declared yet?
Broderick Jones has not declared yet.
Broderick Jones gone. He gonna declare. I'll just go ahead and break that news on the pod right here. We got any other underclassmen that have declared?
Now again, he could have. I have not seen the official. Like we saw Big O's official today. Sure. It came out. So Broderick's gone. Big O's gone. We saw Keely's official today as well. Jalen Carter official today.
Jalen Carter, right, is the other underclassman, I think, that has declared. I feel the same way about this that I felt about the transfer portal conversation, Clint. And then I'll hear what you think about all these guys declaring for the draft. Number one, when you're good, you're going to have guys declare for the draft. That's sort of what people do when they want to, earn a living playing the game that they love.
Yep.
None of these guys are even, this is the understatement of the century, the coldest take in the history of the world. None of these guys are even a remote surprise when it comes to, did we expect them to declare for the draft? We absolutely knew for certain that all of the players that we just mentioned were going to declare for the draft. And I'll just tell you this, there won't be an underclassman that declares for the draft for Georgia this year that's a surprise. And all of them should go to the NFL draft.
Yes.
And all of them are expected, I'll just say, to go to the NFL draft. All of the projections you see next year about how good Georgia's going to be, all have already taken into account that Keely Ringo and Darnell Washington and Broderick Jones and Jalen Carter were not going to be part of this team. And so this is a celebration if you're a Georgia fan. This is not a, oh no, we're losing this guy. You knew you were losing these guys already. That's why we recruit. That's why we develop. That's why so many young guys got playing time this year.
And that's the key piece. If you go back, and we said before the season, last year's historic defense, 2 years ago, historic defense, we were getting production back, snap counts back, percentage plays back. And sure enough, our defense showed out again and was arguably the best defense in all of college football for a second year in a row. I know Iowa wants to talk about it, but for the love of all that is good, stop.
Please don't speak Iowa. Please don't speak until you're spoken to. And spoiler alert, no one's going to speak to you.
No one's going to talk.
No.
Because if you guys want to bang your shot, Luke Fickell is going to be the best defense in that conference. Anyway.
What if an Iowa fan was actually listening to this podcast?
I would love every moment of it.
What?
Don't you? Okay. Hey, well,
don't talk about the Hawkeyes like that.
I suppose I get these bag of bags and don't know what to do with them quite yet. But, want some ice fishing? Look. Snap counts matter. We are getting back large amounts of snap counts at the right positions. Again, Daniel and I have said, I was asked on a radio program last week, what do we think about next year's team and what position are we questionable about? And we said it's quarterback. If we get productive play from the quarterback position, we're going to be fine. Everywhere else, we have not only stars and studs, but depth. So if you look at this team, we have them coming back. They're not going to break. And all the guys going are going to be great. Jalen Carter will be soon the best defensive tackle in college football. I don't know. I don't know how to tell you that he's
maybe
going to
3 years and he will be viewed as one of the best defensive tackles in all of college football.
And if you're
in all of pro football.
In all of pro football. If you're going to come at us for this, we said George Pickens in 3 years.
If you're going to come at us for this, stop.
We said George Pickens in 3 years will be the best wide receiver. Turns out, make it 2. Just make it that 2 year because
he come in quick.
Jalen Carter will be Sue, will be Aaron Donald. He's that type of player. Okay.
And is it that? Sorry. Go ahead and talk about Keely and these other guys.
Keely, look, I am now more confident he's going to go in the top half of the first round.
By the way, Keely didn't bust that coverage. I know, like it's you want to blame. Javon Bullard busted that coverage, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Javon Bullard is a damn good dog, and he made up for it many times over in that college football play. It's okay. He made a mistake. It's okay.
I did, in fact, have some little left hash busted coverage miscommunication, but it was fine because all's well that ends well.
65-7, it ended pretty well. I think, yeah.
So Keely Ring is going to be fine. He's going to be a damn good dog in the league as well over at cornerback position. I think he solidified himself against high competition, against the best, second best, I think, graded wide receiver in this year's draft as well.
Yeah, so let me go back to that next year's team in this position. It's not really the time to talk about that, but real quick scan. You have quarterback. You only get to play one quarterback. We lost 100% of our quarterbacks this year, right?
All the quarterbacks.
Okay. But just do a quick scan of the rest of the field.
Okay.
Now, last year's team, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, think about linebacker.
Ooh, okay.
You lost all of them, right? You didn't lose
everybody.
Many of them. You lost all of them. Is defensive line the position that Georgia lost the most? The highest percentage is going to lose the highest percentage of those players. You think about Zion Logue, you think about Jalen Carter kind of being the two that jump to mind most clearly. But then if you want to put Robert Beal in that group, if on the edge, if you want to call him a defensive lineman, I don't know. So to me, that's the position I think, because you got Kenny Mack leaving, but that whole room of running backs is back, right? Yeah. You don't know yet about what the wide receiver room is going to look like, but you think that you're going to get a lot of production back there. The tight end room, you lose Darnell, but you still have the best tight end in the history of college football.
Yes.
Safety, You lose a guy like Christopher Smith, you still have Malachi Starks. Corner, you lose a guy like Keely Ringo, you still have Kamari Laster. Linebacker, you get everybody.
Everybody left. Now this everybody coming back.
I know that there's a lot of good defensive linemen coming back, but is that seems to be the position that Georgia lost the highest percentage of its production.
That's where we said probably transfer portal. We're going to see some depth replaced, I think, at the defensive line.
Some depth.
I don't think we're going to see starters come
because there's already starters.
Correct.
They're already there.
They're already there,
and they're very good. They're very,
very
good.
Very, very good.
Right,
Bear Alexander is fantastic. Yeah. We're going to come back after this, and we're going to get after Nicky, our boy.
Okay.
Let's get after him. Daniel, the final coaches poll came out. Here's what it said.
Third segment listeners, welcome to the third segment, by the way.
Hey, by
$1.99. We're happy that you're here.
Yeah, just get over there right now. Bonfire.com/store/the199.
Mm-hmm.
Get on it. Get that Death March t-shirt. Watch your boys on a hoodie. You'll be fine. Loyal third segment listeners, let's make fun of Nick Saban, the has-been of college football. Mm-hmm. The yesteryear. The old blue hair.
Listen, this man's at Ruby Tuesdays at 4 p.m. You understand what he's trying to do?
I don't think there's a man in the world that has more curmudgeon-y I don't care come at me, which I guess I respect him for, than voting himself second best college football team when he didn't even make the playoff and lost to the team he kept out of the top 5. Daniel.
Correct.
I have not lied one time in that entire statement.
No, you have not.
Okay.
The only reason his team doesn't have a third loss is because they weren't good enough to be in the college football playoff to begin with. Michigan, meanwhile, finished the season with all of 1 loss.
1
total. And they played 14 games.
And they were in a conference championship.
That's right.
And then college football playoff.
Okay. So it's hard because I think that you want to be careful about what you say, because it is very true that Alabama and Nick Saban have done something that Georgia would be lucky if they even approached. And I want to be totally clear about that.
We are aiming for them that are ahead of us.
They have done something that we have not even begun to think about doing yet in terms of longevity, in terms of dominance, in terms of overall running the sport.
We get that.
Georgia's dynasty, as Luke Robinson of Locked On Alabama loves to point out, is only just beginning. He thinks that's an insult. He thinks that being young and virile is an insult. So, okay. Georgia's dynasty is only just beginning. We're still aspiring to do the things that Alabama has done.
So before anybody yells at us, again, let us read it. Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach.
That's correct.
Okay.
It is pathetic to watch this fan base and to watch now the staff all the way up to the top cling for dear life to what has been taken away from them. Like, they are living so much in the past. And it's the recent past, I'll grant you. It's not that long ago that Alabama was winning championships.
No.
But they're holding on to it so tightly, clinging to it so desperately. Like asking ESPN if they can please fly to Los Angeles to be on TV just so people won't forget that they exist.
Correct.
And then voting themselves number 2 in a poll that literally no one else thinks that they belong in that spot.
No.
Knowing that your name is going to be attached to this and people are going to get to see. This is not Nick Saban's first rodeo. He knows that the final coaches poll is made public and everybody gets to see that.
Yeah.
And yet he doesn't care.
No.
He's trying to make a point that he thinks that his team is still very good. Guess what? This Alabama team was not good. Ask Alabama fans.
But
the team wasn't good.
But Composite, Daniel, has them number 1.
Go ahead.
But prognosticators have them number 1 with the 2 best college football players ever to play at their position
Of all time. But they were a bad team.
They were not subjective. Objection.
They weren't good.
Truth. Fact says they were bad.
It's sad to watch greatness decline like this.
Is it?
No, it is not.
It's not.
It is not sad to watch.
Here's why it's not sad to watch, because the clinging is desperation. And once you get desperate,
here we go. You'd start taking left tackle transfers from Vanderbilt and telling me that they're going to ruin college football. You start taking guys from Georgia Tech and telling me that like you're going to ruin college football in the transfer portal.
Now look, I love a certain computer company, and all my products come from them.
If they'd like to be a sponsor of the pod, just reach out to us.
Reach on out.
Just reach out to us.
Now, when the founder and sustainer and the innovator passes and somebody else takes over, you knew, oh no, it's going to be bad. And you were just waiting. And sure enough, it catches up. And all of a sudden, it's not as cutting edge. It's not the top. It's not the pinnacle. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Nick Saban has lost the magic. It's going to take a long while. It's a long death for people that have reached the pinnacle. We're not saying it's a quick fall from stardom and a quick fall off the mountain. You have built an incredible base that's going to take a very long time to chip away at. I think Alabama will be there in the mix of SEC champions.
Yeah, I mean, in 2 years.
For the next 5 years.
In 2 years, when the playoff expands to 12 teams, I fully expect Alabama to make it.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely.
They are not, cannot, will not be Alabama of old. And I don't have to see anything else besides look at Nick Saban, and he knows. And I read him. He knows that they're desperate, and desperate people do stupid things like vote themselves on a public voting that no one else has. It tells me everything I need to know.
It's a bad look. It's a really sad look. And listen, Georgia fans, we know that look, right? We could admit that, can't we? Like for many years, Georgia tried to posture themselves as relevant when they were just south of relevant. You understand what I'm trying to say? They were good, but they weren't on the level.
Who was
and Alabama fans,
Cox was our quarterback.
Alabama fans, that's who you are. All those years that you made fun of Georgia fans for being that. All those 41 years. Was that how many years it was? I can't even remember how many years it was. Was it 41? I can't even remember.
I have no idea.
Someone please remind me in the comments how long Georgia's championship drought lasted. That's who you are, Alabama. That's the program that you've become. And listen, every year that you act like this, it just puts more and more pressure next year. So listen, when you don't win the West again next year, and you don't have a trip to Death Valley to blame for it because LSU whipped your tail at Bryant-Denny Stadium?
Really quick. Brian Kelly.
Uh-oh.
It turns out he may know how to coach.
Dabo Swinney just stole your offensive coordinator, and Nick Saban is now 72 years old next college football season.
Well, Bill O'Brien is still...
He's still cashing checks from Alabama. Okay.
Look, this has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We will see you guys next week, talk more about this national championship winning team, as well as Mike White and those Bulldogs. We will see you guys then.
See ya.